Guess who it is? It's me, Royal Blue. So for this video, I want to sit here and rant at you guys for like, I don't know, probably an hour of an album I recently stumbled upon. And by recently stumbled upon, I mean I had it pre-saved from the moment it was pre-released, but that's not the point. This album is possibly one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. This album is Nurture by Porter Robinson. I have a very strong love for Porter Robinson's music, mainly because the affiliation that I have with it between my brother and I. When I was in high school, I have a lot of memories of my brother and I driving to class, and he would always be playing the World's album in his car. Because my brother and I are best friends, I have a lot of really positive association with the World's album being an album that he really cared about. He would always play it, and so I always loved it. Sad Machine, Divinity, Fellow Feeling, like these are some of my favorite songs. Then Porter Robinson said that he wasn't doing that kind of music anymore. This was when he then switched to Virtual Self. He was doing a lot of that like techno nostalgia feeling, and I liked it, but I was really bummed that he was like, I'm not doing any World's tours, I'm not doing any of that type of music anymore, that part of me is just gone. And I had never seen Porter Robinson live. I still haven't. I did buy tickets to the Nurture tour though. So I'm gonna see him for the first time ever. I'm so excited. Because my brother has seen him and I'm ready for that. Then Porter Robinson announced Nurture. Nurture is not quite what Worlds is. The sounds are different. But I want to talk about why I think Nurture is possibly one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. And it's not because of the actual musicality itself entirely. While don't get me wrong, I think all the songs are just wonderful songs. The meaning behind them is what makes this album so incredible. And the first time you listen to it, if you're not really paying attention, you miss a lot. Like you miss 90% of the album if you're not paying attention to the actual meaning of the song and listening to the lyrics and everything. The first time I heard all of the songs, I was a little bit underwhelmed because I was expecting Worlds. You know, I was expecting Sad Machine. I was expecting Divinity Part 2. I wanted something that made me feel the way that Fellow Feeling made me feel. And this album didn't have that at first. Until Blossom. I will admit, I cried the first time I heard Blossom, and I still do sometimes. If you go into it expecting it to be Worlds, you're not going to get that. And that makes a difference. But if you go into it with an open mind, expecting just whatever to happen, if you're actually paying attention to it, it is such a phenomenal and brilliant and well-written album. And I am genuinely so impressed by it. Because a lot of the songs, you know, you'll hear people say that they cried in this song, they cried in that song, but most of them are very upbeat sounding EDM songs. Something Comforting is a good example. A friend of mine said that he cried when he heard Something Comforting. And I was like, okay, but that's kind of silly because that's such an upbeat and fun song. And then I listened to it again and I realized the lyrics were a lot sadder than the song sounded, but in more of a bittersweet way. And I feel like it's that bittersweetness that carries out throughout this album that really just makes it stand out more. Because I feel like so many songs tend to fall into one genre of lyric. They tend to be like a love song or a breakup song or a happy song or a sad song about like mental health issues or depression, things like that. But the combination of the happiness with this agony that's behind it, and a lot of this, there's a lot of fear in it. And that's what I think makes it really stand out. 21 Pilots does this as well, where they have really upbeat sounding songs, but then the lyrics are like, I wanna die. And it's like, okay, a lot of these songs on Nurture are songs that involve a sadness that then have a glimmer of hope at the end of it. And it's that glimmer of hope that's in all of these songs. And that's why I keep listening to the album over and over and over. Anytime I'm driving anywhere in my car, it's immediately, Hey Siri, play Nurture. It's every time. I can't get enough of this album because the positivity that lies with all of this sadness is so important of a message for people to know. I feel like I could just ramble about this for so long, and I need to try to keep my thoughts coherent, but so that's, I guess, kind of one pillar of it, is the bittersweetness that happens in a lot of it. It's a unique thing, and it's just beautiful. But another thing that I really want to point out about this album is that it holds such a significant meaning for me as a content creator. His song Musician is about being a musician and the impact that it has of his loved ones. It sounds like he's talking about his mom, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really done research on what the songs mean. I've just kind of gone off of what I've interpreted from them. But the song Musician, when I first heard it, I was hearing lyrics like, I know I love you, so I think I should tell you. And I was like, oh my god, this is so great. This is a nice love song about being in love. It's like I can't stop this feeling. It's all these things that he's saying. And I was like, that's so cute. And then I listened more to it, and what he's saying is that it sounds like his mom is being like, hey, you know I love you, so I'm gonna tell you this honestly. I don't want you to waste your life by being a musician. I think you should get a job. Get a real job, because this isn't a real job. But then the chorus of the song is him saying, like, it's okay, you just trust me, because I feel this. I can't stop this feeling of just joy that I get from creating. And because of that feeling, I will be okay. And so even though the song is about people doubting him, and people he cares about giving him doubts, he presses on through it. And for me, as a much smaller content creator than Porter Robinson, it's something that really pushes me, because obviously if you make content full time, people don't believe in you. There's always someone who's like, you're not gonna make it anywhere, you need to get a real job. And because like I've mentioned, I don't have a real job. I make content 24/7. This is what I do, is streaming and YouTube, and like, this lifestyle that I live is not a consistent lifestyle. There's never any guarantees that I'm gonna pay my rent. But I love what I do so much, and so it's so nice to hear a very successful artist saying the same things that I've been feeling. Because when I'm in my car and I hear him say it, like, I can't stop this feeling, it's like, that's just, I'm like, me too, man, me too. And so I feel so connected, and it gives me so much hope for my future as an entertainer. And that's what I really, really love about this album, is that hope and that positivity is just so good. The third pillar, I guess I would say, of what makes this album so great, beneath the surface, some of the songs are possibly the most romantic lyrics I've ever heard. Because there's obviously a lot of ways to say I love you to somebody. And for me, as someone who's not in a relationship, I don't have a certain person in mind when I hear these things. But I don't think of it as romantic love. It doesn't have to be romantic love. There's a ton of different ways to love people. So again, I think about my brother a lot, and how this is, you know, an album that he's really excited about too, and we're going together to go see the Nurture show. So for me, I think of the familiar love, the brotherly love, the siblings, because he's my best friend, and who is better to write about my best friend than the person that my best friend introduced me to, you know? So that's what I think about a lot. But there's two songs that I mentioned that are really, really powerful in this sense. Actually 3 if you include Mother, but Mother is more of obviously a maternal thing, because again, he's talking about his mom, how his mom has said to him things like, you know, I will always be on your side, things like this, like the relational love between his mother makes me feel the way that I feel about my mom, because I also love and adore my mother. That's kind of more of a sub-note. There's 2 songs I want to talk about, and one of these 2 is completely slept on. These songs are Blossom, as I mentioned, and Sweet Time. Sweet Time, no one talks about. The first time I heard it, I kind of wrote it off. I was like, whatever, it's a good song, but it doesn't really stand out. The actual musicality of the song is in the realm of Porter Robinson, kind of forgettable. Porter makes absolutely incredible music. So I was like, it's just another one of those great Porter Robinson songs. Nothing stands out about it. But then I listened to the lyrics, and then the lyrics hit me one day when I was driving, and I just started crying. I just broke down in my car because I thought that was the most romantic line you could ever say. The most beautiful way to say I love you to somebody is take a long time because all the world is lucky to be your home. And it is then followed by I need a next life because I'm not satisfied to know you just once. It's those 2 things. It's the world is lucky to be your home, and I essentially, I need to be reborn again because I need to know you again. I'm not satisfied only knowing you once. I want to know you all over again. I want to fall in love with you all over again. And again, putting that in the romantic sense of that's such a beautiful way to say that you love somebody. Because I know that in the lyric breakdown that Porter did of Blossom, he was talking about his girlfriend and how she was an inspiration for this. So I'm assuming he's talking about his girlfriend there. But that is such a beautiful thing to say, is I want to be reborn and I want to fall in love with you all over again, because once is not enough. I'm not satisfied with just once. That really got me. And so, also being someone who struggles with mental health issues, it was that line that he said, all the world is lucky to be your home. That line, if I was in my car, I just started crying. I was like, man, the world, think of it, put it in your own sense. The world is lucky to be my home. That's freaking such a nice thing to say to somebody. That's such a nice thing. And then the other song, Blossom, again, is just a song that is just dripping with love. It's not just a love song, because again, this also has a bittersweet, because it talks about the end. It's all talking about this relationship, but being distracted by the idea of it ending in the future. And there's a lot of lines in that. I could read you the whole song, but I will spare you. I would highly encourage you to listen to it yourself. It's it's just an acoustic song. It's just this beautiful guitar, and it's Porter singing with a pitched up vocal, makes it sound more feminine. So it sounds like it almost sounds like he's duetting himself, but as a female. And it's just really unique, special sound, because there's certain parts in the song where that vocoder cracks and it goes back down into his pitch, which is obviously an intentional thing, but it really adds to the raw feeling of the song, in which these words are so true that you can't even put a filter on it. That's how true and real it is. I mean, and maybe that's just my interpretation of it, but that sound design is absolutely incredible. Again, the part where I just lost it, it's the end of the song, but then you said, don't think of the time that's left, you're spending it in your head. I just want you happy. So at last, goodbye. I'll be happy just to have known you, and we wished each other well. I'll be happy just to have known you. Even when you're saying goodbye, the fact that you're reflecting on just how happy you are to have ever known them to begin with is just such a beautiful thing. And like I said, you can take it in a romantic sense. He's talking about his girlfriend. I personally don't take it in a romantic sense because I don't have that, so I put it in a familiar sense with my family, because I love my family. And when I think about that kind of stuff, I think about my mom, I think about my brother, and it's I am so happy that I know them. I'm so happy that I got to spend my life with them. And I know they'll be there until the end, but all I could think about is just how much I love them. And that is just beautiful. So like I said, this album, Nurture, is possibly one of the most beautiful albums I've ever heard. Because, obviously the soundscaping is already incredible. It has a lot of this really beautiful ambience too. I feel like I should probably talk a little bit about the sounds, not just the lyrics of it all, but it's got these really ethereal sounding ambience behind it in a lot of these like intermission type songs. There's like wind tempos that is mostly just kind of ambient music happening that then cuts into like a piano that then cuts into some vocal chops. And wind tempos really is another just one that's freaking amazing, but it's just the sound of it is so beautiful. It's got songs like Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do, which is just like this ambience. It's magical. And as someone with synesthesia, which I feel like I could do a whole video talking about music and synesthesia. Side note, if you happen to not know what synesthesia is, I realize I should probably explain that. I can see sounds, TLDR. Whenever I hear something, I can see what color it is. Long story short. But anyways, some of these songs have some really beautiful colors behind them. There's a lot of like neon purple, a lot of this like neon blues and purples, this glow. The songs are just glowing. These intermissionary songs paint this picture of just neon lights, this nighttime, but at the same time it's like springtime. It's very like Neo-Tokyo is kind of the way I could describe it. And it's gorgeous. It's so pretty to look at in my head. And so the sounds that sound like that. And then on the subject of the soundscaping of the songs, the actual musicality itself, Unfold is another one that I find to be rather slept on. Not as slept on as the others. When I first heard Unfold, I got goosebumps on my whole body goosebumps. And I cannot wait to hear that in person with the bass surrounding me, because I want to feel the vibrations of the bass in Unfold with my whole body. I want to feel it in my bones. Again, it's one of those things where please listen to this album. Please give this album a listen, please. And then follow along in the album to hear all of these things I'm talking about. Unfold is just freaking gorgeous soundscaping. Unfold is up there with like the world style goosebumpy feel. That's what I would put Unfold in. So I think Unfold is certainly one of my favorite songs on the album. Especially its Blossom into Unfold. That combo there, certainly wonderful. Possibly I feel like safely would say that those are my favorite songs on the album. And then there's one final thought that I have on this album, because I know I'm just sitting here ranting, but I have one final thought. The song Scythe. It was the only song that when I first heard it, it was a miss, because I was like, it's just kind of noises. I felt like whatever was trying to be conveyed was missing me. It's no slight to Porter at all. I was like, I just feel like it's missing me. But then I had this like kind of thought that had kind of connected the whole album with it. When, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's done this, but when I was a kid, I would fiddle around in GarageBand, and I thought it was so funny to grab a vocal chop. Like I would just bark into the microphone or something, and then I would vocal chop like just 1/10 of a second from it, and I would loop it. And I thought that was so funny. And so Scythe to me sounded like something I would have made when I was like 12 years old, fiddling with GarageBand. Cause I was like, it's just these like looping sounds over and over and over, and it gets a little bit redundant after a while. But then I had this thought, and again, this could totally just be my interpretation of the album. There is nothing on the internet that says that this is how it is. But then I kind of thought about the song Musician, and how a lot of the songs on this album are about his passion, are about this hope of the future and this passion. And I was like, how funny is it that this song sounds like it was something that I would have thrown together when I was a kid in GarageBand on an album where he's talking about his career as a musician. Because now Scythe just reminds me of Porter showing us like his roots, where he was like, I was just this goofy little kid in GarageBand making all these weird sounds because I was just figuring myself out and developing this passion. Like, what if Scythe is where the start of his passion, or at least is an homage to where the start of his passion was. Because what if he did the same thing that I did? Because I feel like there's no way I'm the only kid in the world who was messing around GarageBand and making silly sounds. Scythe having these like looping type sounds, that's kind of what it had reminded me of. And once I made that connection, I really start to like respect this song a lot. Because again, I could totally just be grasping at straws here, but with my interpretation being it that way, I think that makes it so precious. I love that. I love that this album is telling a story of growth, of where Porter Robinson was when he was first developing this passion, talking about his mom, his family, and then moving on to talking about his career, and then talking about his girlfriend. This growth of a person. I feel like I've watched a whole autobiography in just this album, and that's just so fascinating. I love the fact that he can soundscape that and have these just gorgeously written lyrics that can convey such a powerful meaning. So like I said, if you haven't heard this album, for one thing, please listen to it, but keep in mind, actually listen to it. Don't just put it on in the background, because you'll miss everything. Listen to it actively. Listen to the words of the songs. Listen to the meaning behind it. You will probably hear what I'm hearing about how this is quite possibly one of the most incredible albums I've ever heard in my life. But anyways, that's all I have on the subject. I like talking about music, and this album has been on repeat for God, really pretty much every day since it came out. I don't listen to anything else. So I cannot recommend this enough. Please check the album out, listen to it, and let me know in the comments what you think, because I want to know what you guys think about it. If you guys already know Porter Robinson, if you've heard it before, what do you think? And then also, like, if you've never heard Porter Robinson before, just give it a try and let me know what you think. It's always fun to try to find new music, right? I would say so. But that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you somewhere over the rainbow. So for this video, I want to sit here and rant at you guys for like, I don't know, probably an hour.